Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And one of Nintendo's biggest releases last year being Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, while yes, is an absolutely fantastic game from a gameplay standpoint, it's also unfortunately been shrouded by bugs and performance problems. This certainly has hindered its launch, maybe not in total units sold, but at least in terms of the public eye, to the point Nintendo came out and promised to fix some of these issues. However, it's been pretty much silent since then though, or at least until today, though you might be surprised that an incoming update is still a little bit of a ways away even still. Yeah, we'll get into all that today, and then also Ubisoft dropped a ton of news, though not really exactly what you want to hear. Unfortunately, it does sound like they might be in serious trouble. That's not an exaggeration. They are having absolute real issues. And there's once again speculation of an eventual acquisition just to kind of save them. But based on what we're hearing, that might be easier said than done, as their situation might just be that dire. With that said, if you enjoy the video, hit those buttons below. It helps the channel a ton, so do consider supporting. It's greatly appreciated. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into things. First, starting off with that Xbox Developer Direct. We, of course, talked about this yesterday. The Xbox Direct is now officially set for January 25th, where we'll get updates for The Elder Scrolls Online, Redfall, Minecraft Legends, and then also Forza 8. And here's the thing, we have gotten more updates since that initial announcement and what you can expect from this showcase. The first update here, and I think most of us probably already expected this to be the case, but in the German announcement, they essentially confirmed that they will indeed be revealing release dates for all 4 of these games. It did not say this in the English version of the announcement, but if you read the German translated version, it reads as follows. Developer Direct will focus on amazing features, extensive gameplay showcases, and first-time shared release dates for great Xbox titles coming out over the next few months, including The Elder Scrolls Online, Forza Motorsport, Minecraft Legends, and Redfall. So yeah, again, I think most of us probably were expecting that to be the case, but it is nice to get a confirmation here. And really, the next 6 or so months for Xbox will be much more clear after this event. And with that, honestly, if you think about it, Xbox has a real opportunity here. Years ago, Xbox expressed a desire to get to a point where eventually they can release new first-party titles every 3 months. But here, they actually have an opportunity to potentially release a new first-party title every single month for the next 6 months. Now, if you're wondering how they can do something like that, technically, they could shadow drop a game in January, maybe GoldenEye Remastered, that's already in the rumor mill, or maybe they could shadow drop something like Minecraft Legends. Who knows? But then you have Redfall, Forza, Starfield, The Elder Scrolls Online, and also, you can't forget about this one, Ghostwire Tokyo. That game's timed exclusivity for PlayStation will be ending this March, so they do have enough content here to release every single month. It is absolutely in the cards. And that's kind of crazy to think about. Those days of Xbox has no games, yeah, they're quickly coming to an end here. The other part about this update, though, is that Aaron Greenberg did note that this showcase will be 43 minutes long. That's actually a lot longer than I was anticipating. It really seems like they're going to give true deep dives into each one of these games. Keep in mind, though, that they do also have a separate event for Starfield to give it even more time, and if you kind of think about that, that event alone could end up being like 20 to 30 minutes just to showcase Starfield. So yeah, I kind of like what we're hearing here. We will get a clear look into exactly what these games are. Moving on, reviews are now rolling out for One Piece Odyssey. While admittedly, I've never really gotten into this series myself, there has been a lot of excitement for this game. It's not just your typical One Piece release, but rather, it appears that they did put a real effort into making this a legitimate RPG with its own unique story coming from the One Piece creator. I think that is definitely something to be excited about. Well, it is coming out tomorrow, and that also means that we are getting reviews as well, so how's it doing? Well, it currently is sitting at a 75 overall score on Metacritic with 25 reviews, which actually, that's pretty decent. This does make it one of the better reviewed games in the series, and if you look at the reviews, you'll kind of notice that outside of one review that drags its overall score down, that's kind of typical anymore, but more critics do seem to have enjoyed Odyssey. 18 reviews are positive, 6 are mixed, and then you also have one review that again gave it a 4 out of 10. It does look like most critics, however, are giving it right around an 8 out of 10, so Just kind of take that as you will. From what I'm reading and hearing, though, it sounds like fans of the series will ultimately get the most out of this game, and it sounds like that they will indeed enjoy it. But even if you're not necessarily a fan of the series, this could still be a worthwhile game to jump into. The turn-based combat seems fairly solid, the visuals are nice, though I did see some critics say that its pacing and story could be stronger. Sounds like an overall solid release though, and I'd say that if anything, this is a good sign going forward. If you think about it, we are starting to see some of these popular anime produce worthwhile RPGs. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and now also One Piece Odyssey. Let's go ahead and get into this Ubisoft situation though, because things are not looking good. So what's happening here is that they posted their earnings report, which led to a massive 13.79% stock drop. And that right away is very telling on how this earnings report went. Nothing good, and I mean nothing at all good came from this. But what's even scarier is that Ubisoft stock is actually down 74.25% compared to its peak 5 years ago. That's the kind of decline that we're seeing in Ubisoft, which means there's some very serious questions about their future. We'll come back to that here in just a second, but first, let's go and take a look at the repercussions of this current report and why they're in a situation that they're currently in. The first of which is Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, in their words, has underperformed. They were hoping that this would be a big, successful release for them last year, but instead, so far, that's just not been the case. Now, the reasoning for this, to me, is a little bit off base. This is what they said. When there's more pressure, people go for the biggest brands, and they don't go for the small ones. What we have observed is that there has been some contraction in overall consumer spending coming from the economic environment and rising inflation. They then continue on to say, all we can say about Rabbids is that the game has been really well appreciated by players. We are getting community ratings that are excellent. We feel that the game is going to do good numbers over time, but the beginning was not at all what we expected. Now, when I read this, I actually disagree with this game performing poorly because people focus on bigger brands. While I'm sure that does play a part here, to me, I think one of the issues is Ubisoft's trend to mark down their games significantly after release. And something the fans saw with the first Mario plus Rabbids game, they were basically giving this game away multiple times a year. It was not all that uncommon to see this game go for $10 on the Nintendo eShop or even at retail. So, I mean, there's a lot of fans out there that's expecting the same with Sparks of Hope, and in fact, it was going for $30 just last month. Again, this is a brand new game, so I think a lot of fans are just kind of waiting for that eventual price drop. Now, with all that said, I think the second part of their statement, I think that is true. It will do good numbers over time eventually, just not necessarily at their launch asking price of $60. That's all I'm trying to say here. It is unfortunate though, because this is a good game in terms of quality. There's no doubt about that. It's really arguably one of the best Mario spin-offs ever made. So hopefully in the grand scheme of things, hopefully it will have some success in the long run. In more of the immediate short term, though, with Ubisoft struggling just so much right now, they did announce they've canceled 3 more unannounced projects, which this is on top of their 4 previous projects that they canceled last July. That means in a 6-month period, they've canceled 7 games, which, again, that really just kind of shows you how dire this situation is for them. Somehow, though, and this is miraculous by this point, Skull and Bones, once again, has survived. It is still in development, but, and this comes as zero surprise by this point, it's been delayed for the 6th total time. Yeah, it now has a vague release window of early 2023 to 2024. So, I guess we're just going to kind of see this game when we see it. Honestly, it is quite amazing that Skull and Bones has survived another round of cancellations. Now, I can't speak for everybody. Maybe some of you will absolutely love this game, but I just don't see it. Maybe if it released like a year or 2 after Assassin's Creed Black Flags, maybe then it would have made sense. But here we're in 2023, and from what they've shown so far, I'm not impressed by this game at all. Now, maybe it'll come out and prove me wrong. I hope they do. I'm definitely not rooting against it, but I'm just not expecting this game to be the title that gets Ubisoft back on track. Now, as for the reason that this game is still alive, Kotaku at one point did apparently post a report where sources told them that Ubisoft can't actually scrap Skull and Bones due to some type of deal that they made with Singapore authorities. That's actually pretty crazy if that's true, but here we are. This game is still alive, and it'll release between now and whenever, I guess. Ubisoft is also planning $200 million in cost reductions, including natural attrition and divesting of non-core assets. And then on top of everything else, because if things weren't already evidently bad, they're also emailing their studios telling them, quote unquote, the ball is in their court, and that today more than ever, I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back on the path to success. So they are flat out telling their employees, we got to do better. Now, with all this news circulating, though, again, this is all bad. There are those questions out there of what Ubisoft can do. How can they improve? Of course, releasing better games, that's always going to be on the top of the agenda. Make sure to foster beloved brand names, which they haven't really done a great job at outside of Assassin's Creed. And then maybe also be more creative. We've talked about this before, but Ubisoft's strategy as of recent has been to focus on these mythical cash cows, as I like to call them, being free-to-play competitive style of games. Yes, Fortnite has been a huge success. I get that. You have Apex Legends, you have Warzone. But, and here's the thing that companies don't want to acknowledge, there are far more flops than success stories when it comes to these style of games. That's why you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket, if you will. And that's something that we have been seeing with Ubisoft. It just feels like they're putting too many resources on these type of games. The other thing that I'm kind of seeing online, though, is the question of a Ubisoft acquisition. Can somebody come in, acquire them, and save them? You can kind of view these cancellations and maybe that with them decreasing their spending as, you know, maybe slimming the fat. Maybe they're trying to better position themselves for an acquisition. But according to Jeff Grubb, Ubisoft has they've already tried to sell. You can actually see here where he says Ubisoft definitely already did the rounds proposing acquisitions and mergers with other similar companies, and it mostly got laughed at. It's just too unwieldy. Its strength was its distributed development structure, and now that is an albatross. I hope it tries to ride it out because I think it might hold on to more people than if it tried to slim down for an M&A. Either way, though, it seems grim. Making games is a rough business. So this might not necessarily be as an easy sell as you might think it would be. Though, and this is just how I kind of look at it, one thing that is very obvious, and it's becoming more and more obvious each and every year, is that IP is king. Now, what I mean by that is that beloved, established IP are worth a lot to these companies, more now than ever before. And Ubisoft, they do have several beloved IP. Look at something like Splinter Cell, you have Assassin's Creed, there's Rayman, and the list just kind of goes on. So I think that alone could make them attractive in that sense. The question then just kind of becomes, will companies only be interested in their IP and not necessarily in the company as a whole? That could be an unfortunate situation in the future if things don't necessarily improve. Either way, though, I do hope Ubisoft pulls through in the long run. Now, we do actually have some more good news today as well, or kind of, because Nintendo is talking about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and that much anticipated update. It's no big secret that this game has had its issues with bugs and performance, to the point that Nintendo flat out came and said this: we are aware that players may encounter issues that affect the game's performance. Our goal is always to give players a positive experience with our games, and we apologize for the inconvenience. We take the feedback from players seriously and are working on improvements to the games. That, though, was back on November 30th, and since then, we haven't really heard too much, or at least until today. They've now officially announced through a press release that update version 1.2.0 will be out late February. Yeah, unfortunately, that update is coming a little later than I'm sure some of us were hoping, but we at the very least have some rough expectations of when it will be here. Now, with all that said, they aren't necessarily giving any concrete details as to exactly what to expect with this update and what all it will include. All they're currently saying is this: update version 1.2.0, which will include bug fixes and add functionality, is planned to be released in late February. Please look forward to more details soon. So we're still going to have to wait for more information on all of this, but considering the amount of time that it's taken to get this update, and plus with Nintendo's previous promise to actually fix the game, I would assume that performance improvements will be included, even if they don't flat out mention that here. Now, if that's the case, will this be the only performance update? That kind of remains to be seen. But either way, I am very much looking forward to any kind of improvements by this point. Again, this is a great game. I'll reiterate that time and time again, but it could be a whole lot better with better performance. Its launch is, quite frankly, inexcusable, and this is coming from a massive Pokemon fan, as some of you all might know. I love this series. It still does deserve a whole lot better, though. The other part about this update, however, is the mention of added functionality. What exactly could that mean? And I do wonder if that's maybe referring to Pokemon Home. I know a lot of fans are waiting for that, and you know what? I guess we'll see. Again, this is coming late February, and while that is still a little bit of a wait, you know, it's better late than never. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you like the idea of Starfield having its own Xbox Developer Direct rather than showing up on January 25th? And as you can see here, the majority of you all do actually prefer it this way, with 77% of you saying yes, while 14% of you said no. Now, really, I think the thing with this entire situation is that Xbox is being very upfront about the situation. You know, I think that they didn't say something and then Starfield didn't show up there, people, of course, they're going to kind of freak out about the situation. There's already speculation that it could end up being delayed beyond this June. But with them being transparent and reassuring fans that it's going to get its own Direct to give it the proper deep dive, not only does that better set expectations, but it also means that it's going to get an even more extended reveal than some of these other games. To me, that actually sounds like a great sign. This is a massive game. It's also highly important. And from everything that we've seen and heard, yeah, it might need that extended time to really show you everything that it has to offer. So I'm with you all here. I'm completely fine with it getting its own Direct, and if anything, it actually kind of sounds better this way, or at least in my own personal opinion. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.